Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dingers and Discourse podcast, your number one stop shop for everything Mario baseball. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the NPSS12 Top 8 recap, the community feedback form, some stars off draft rules, results from the Discord server, and some current Season 4 polls. We have time, we have another topic going on, but we'll see you in just a second. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dingers and Discourse podcast, episode 18. I'm joined with three other guests and hosts. Today, we have Clutch1908.
Hello.
Karazi.
Howdy.
And a guest for this episode, Thanners. Welcome in.
Yo, how's it going, everybody?
So, Clutch, you know this better than anyone here. You want to give Thanners the good old 1-2?
Oh, yeah. So this goes back. We had to do this last week, too, with Peacock Slayer. So this is the classic question from PK Kirby. If you were in Mario Baseball, which category of character would you fall under? Balance, technique, speed, power, and what would your special ability be? Examples: sliding, catch, body check, etc.
That's good. I'm gonna go with speed and sticky hands. You know what, the Diddy Kong one.
Yeah, the super catch, I think is what it is.
Super catch, that's it. Yeah.
All right.
Were you a runner previously? I forget if we talked about that.
I've played sports my entire life. I briefly had a stint in cross country in high school.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But when I think about myself and I think of myself playing baseball, I can only hit up to somebody throwing like maybe 70, and then it starts whizzing by me and I can't hit it. But I can play shortstop like nobody else. So I literally have sticky hands IRL. It's awesome.
All right. Hey, good fielder. That's what it's all about. You know, that's the other half of the game. So let's get start on the podcast today. Everyone was talking about this Netplay Superstars 12, the biggest tournament in the community right now. And this one was a big one. It was anyone's game. There was so many close matchups. We had, I think, almost everyone here except you, Thanners, were involved, correct? You were watching it, so, you know.
Yeah, no, I was
involved.
watching. I was not involved.
But, I mean, I wasn't either. I just streamed it, but it was anyone's ball game in every single thing. Remke did take it in a clean sweep, did not drop a single match. Let's go talk about the bracket. Krazzy, you made probably the longest run in the call. You want to go to talk about your run?
Yeah, so my run was basically pretty solid up until winner's quarters when I played Stuff Flatbread. And he kind of blew the brakes off of me. I think he beat me 11-5. He had a very good offensive performance. I would say I underestimated him. I've beaten him in Stars Off before. I think I've beaten him in Spring Series one time. And I wasn't expecting much, but he came in hot, and I don't know, like I said, I wasn't expecting it. Got knocked down to losers, and I think I ended up winning 5 after that to make it back to Grands. So I was really happy with my run, including another win over Flatbread, which is big.
So, Clutch, you versed Krazzy in losers round 1 of top 8. You guys can go back and forth on this. How was your guys' game in that one? I know that one wasn't streamed at all.
I hated it. It was awful. I had a terrible time. It was literally so. I mean, Krazzy and I had just played a game, maybe a couple days before top 8. We played a 12-inning thriller. It was really back and forth. It was a lot of fun. And then on top 8 day, Krazzy came out, and if he had stars in his gauge, I couldn't do a thing about it. Any inning, he didn't have any stars. I held him scoreless, but as soon as he got a couple star hits on, forget it. It was donezo. I think the first inning you scored 6, and then the next time I held you to like the 5th or 6th inning, and then you scored 7, and that was it.
Yeah.
It was like a 6-2 ball game before the 6th inning, even though like he had this crazy first inning. I held him down, and then he got his stars back up, and I forget even all, but line drive stars, and Birdo ball, and yeah, it was no, because I had Birdo and I just couldn't execute with Birdo. We both had really good star teams. I think you had a 4-star team, I had a 5-star team, and you used your 4 stars for 6 runs, and I used like 4 of my 5 for 2. It was kind of pathetic, honestly. But yeah, no, I think Flatbread was probably most tournaments he would have been the biggest surprise. I don't know if he even was. You had Mori on the other side of winners. You know, he took Remke to a 1-run game in winners semis.
Yes, that was an insane game.
And then he lost to Krasi by a lot, but I'm gonna say it. I think Krasi was pissed losing the Flatbread, so I didn't want anything to do with Krasi. So I don't think Mori did either. So I'm not gonna put much weight in that one. So yeah, Flatbread really surprised me, but I thought this breakout was coming at some point from him. It really was going to surprise me if he was such a good stars on player, if he wasn't going to be able to find a way to convert it to stars off. And he did it with his style more specifically. And, you know, I think there'll be another day soon here when we talk about the tier list as we close up season 3. I think Flatty's going to have a lot of influence on where people put DK after his MPS performance. But yeah, I think those are the 2 biggest surprises, but end of the day, it was 1 versus 2 in the finals, even though we had a lot of upsets and cool runs. And Remke took care of business and won his triple crown.
Yeah, so just some notable things. So the Remke Morty game, definitely a watch. It was down to the last out. Really, really good game. The Flatbread Hell's Hero game. If you want to watch some nice homers, go for that one. Flatbread really showed off what Pianta can do with Chem. Feels like every time he gets that Pianta up to the plate, it's going to be it to the wall at least. I think he had 1 low trajectory. The whole top 8 was crazy. And he also has a really good DK, like Clutch said. So he might have that change in the tier list next season once that season ends. Some other games that I would want to have you watch. The Remke Flatbread game, you know, he was super close at the beginning. At the end, it kind of did fade away. But if you want to watch someone taking Remke to like a close match, that's a good one too. And I'd also watch Grants. Grants is always just a hell of a good time. So Netplay Superstars 12, everyone said it was the best one, but everyone says that every time. We'll see how it goes down in history. Thank you everyone for making it possible. So let's head over to the community feedback form. I don't know a lot about this, so I'm going to have you 3 take it away because this is your baby.
This is Teebling's baby. If we want to assign,
okay.
This is Teebling's baby.
There's a paternity test out there somewhere that says Teebling on it. Just for this survey, Teebling, I promise. Yeah, so this is a whole slew of questions. There's a good bit of topics here. From, you know, what type of events do you want to see more of? What are tournaments doing well? What are they not doing well right now? What can we change to make the tournament experience better? Some other stuff about ranked rules, which we'll deep dive into in a bit. There's a lot of questions here. How do you want to start this, Clutch? Why don't you go ahead and give us like a question to analyze here.
Yeah, I guess first thing I was gonna say before we hopped into the results was, you know, people saw this in the server and things. Just know this was like carefully analyzed. Like we talked about in Dingers and Discourse about, you know, what we would want to see in a community forum and things like that, and changes in the community because we knew it was coming soon. And then Teebling asked us like, what would you change to the questions, things like that, which for me was super helpful. I've designed surveys and things before, so like I wanted to like, you know, they already had like the meat of the ideas that needed to be asked. It was just like cleaning up the questions to make them clearer and get the most effective feedback we could. So like, just know that there's a lot of care of effort put into this, and it was not to just be like, oh, now we got numbers. To think like, I know there's a lot of action coming off of this, and so be excited for that. And I will also say we're going to deep dive into some of the questions, but I know at some point the results will be anonymized, summarized, and released to the general server as well. So don't think that these are going to be like locked away and we're just making up numbers. You will see the result at some point. But I think the first one we can hop into was there was the question about stars off rank set for the ranked rule set. Oh my gosh. Changes to it. Surprisingly overwhelming, which it's not going to sound overwhelming by the numbers, but in a survey like this is really positive feedback, and it's already going to be implemented for season 4. Hazardless stadiums came in at 55.9% of respondents said they wanted to see that add to the rule set. So I think it's a really cool thing. We've talked about it a little bit about what we think it can do, but I guess, Krasny and Thanners, what do we think is going to change with adding all of the stadiums to be selectable in Stars Off?
I think kind of the obvious thing and the most fascinating thing to me is just kind of like which characters benefit and like are hindered by the different stadiums. Like you think of DK Jungle and like a character like PM. Like PM's probably ripping dingers every other at bat in DK Jungle. So I think just that kind of like progression and that like development of the meta at the different stadiums with the characters is going to be very fascinating.
Yeah, I think like little intricate stuff around like Luigi jumping over. Wait, the flowers can't come out. That's the whole point. I was gonna say Luigi jumping over the flowers. I think little things where like you can now play certain characters in certain spots where a ball would land in the outfield and they can now get it. The fielding sizes are gonna make for different outfield plays, different infield plays, and yeah, just of course the batting is gonna change things up wildly with where the walls are. And that should make for some big impact. I think Wario is my prime candidate for massive impact on these smaller stadiums. No chem links, and especially with one chem link, you'll see a lot of bombs going out with Wario. I tried to push some conversation in the tier list channel around what people think about these hazardless stadiums and who's going to be where. And I think Wario will eke in as like number 10, kind of poking around where Magic Koopa is on the S tier, like on that top tier. People are going to want a share of Wario in a lot of their games. And just as a little bit more context to this community survey and this question in particular, and the poll that you guys have probably seen, we didn't even poll this question. Like we were like, all right, this is amazing candidate to actually just push right through. Let's not even ask people again. Like everybody wanted it. Let's do it. And I'm so hyped for this. I think just in general as like a bigger Mario baseball thought that we've played the crap out of Mario Stadium. And I love Mario Stadium, and I'll never not think it's the best stadium for this game because I love the way that it plays. It looks beautiful, especially with some of the texture mods we've got on it. But yeah, I think just changing things up, spicing up the game is going to be amazing for the health of the game. People wanting to come back and play it more. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it just adds a whole new like mindset to just drafting. Now you have to pick a stadium, counterpicking the stadiums maybe, stuff like that. Even if you do like best of 3 sets, let's say you just want to do a friendly best of 3, or ranked best of 3. Now you can do different type of stuff now. Like just think of if you're playing like a Smash game, think if you're just playing Final Destination the whole time. That's gonna get boring after a bit. It's just the same gameplay over and over, and you can do a little bit of tweaking. Now you're interesting like Yoshi's story. Now you're adding Fountain of Dreams. You're adding just different maps to change the gameplay, new content that's already in the game, but now added to the rule set just helps out and creates a new different ball game. No pun intended there.
Yeah, and I think I kind of like brought this up before. Like I think Cokes had a good mentality when this was talked about before, and I'm sure the mod team, both in terms of people working on Project Rio and like the mods and admins that run the Discord server, have a good mentality of just because we implement a rule doesn't mean that it should absolutely stick around. Like we should be using the changing rank seasons to trial some rules that have, they have to have support. We can't just randomly throw things in unless there's a really good reason to, but like once we've actually seen it implemented and used, then like go back for another vote and be like, was what my suggestion was, at least was like, if we see something have like at least 50% like favoritism, like let's do it. And then after it's been in the ranked rule set for a season, then maybe like 60% makes it a permanent rule or something like that of the vote, because like theoretically, if it worked so well, you should keep everyone that originally wanted it and also add in more people that were like on the fence and then saw it work well. I don't know if that's the exact format we need to use, but like that's kind of like the mentality we should be having. It's like, let's try out some rules for a season, and if it's so wildly successful, then let's keep them in there and put them in there permanently.
Yeah, I think bringing more variety is great. I think a little bit of randomness can go a long way in the game even too, where one of the conversations that's been brought up, because people know that hazardless stadiums are coming. One of the conversations that's been brought up is, what's this going to be like on Peach Garden with slap hits pretty much dominate the entire game? Like, you're going to get a couple dingers like here and there. But for the most part, you're relying on the game's built-in RNG to give you slap hits. That's been the argument. And I totally see where that's coming from. I get it. Peach Garden is definitely infuriating to play on when you need to lace together like 4 singles to get something going with like a part of your lineup. And I think, pushing that on people is good initially. Like, let's like explore. Like, what is that like? Like, what are the characters that are the most consistent, that are going to see that jump in meta value, right? Like, is Toadsworth going to be higher picked than he would have been because of that, like, very, very safe singles bat? I think it's just bringing in more variety is fantastic, I think, for what we're doing here. Yeah. I think that's the idea that everybody's kind of coalesced around.
Yeah. I think switching the draft to 1-2-1-1 was kind of like our first leap into like, oh yeah, let's try out different stuff and see how we like it. And I feel like it's been a good trial to like figure out how people like the past version and this new version. And I think the hazardless stadiums are just a completely new way to do this, where some people might like some of the stadiums, some people might like some of the other ones, and it'll just be like it's a good way to get buzz around the game, whether it be like discussing it or actually playing the stadiums you like. I don't know. I think it's just an overall good point.
Yeah, hold that thought, Krasy, about the draft, because the feedback about the draft format, I was so surprised to see it, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's go through the other ones first. There was another like general, this was like a free response question. It was, basically, without having it in front of me, is basically, if you were to talk to the TOs of the current tournaments, what would you like them to see, see them do better? What would you like to see them do differently to help run the tournaments better? And there was a few common themes that I picked out. The first one I wanted to talk about was setting more stringent tournament deadlines mid-tournament for like completing a certain round up to a certain date. And then also enacting more clear penalties, both with DQs in the tournament and also some sort of system to punish repeat offenders. So I guess, we have a couple people that have run events in here, and also people that play in a lot of events in this call. And so I'm curious about what we think first about having more clear and more stringent deadlines in the middle of tournaments.
I guess I'll go first as a TO for Netplay Superstars. I mean, I'm not the guy that always makes the calls. I don't want to be that guy that makes the calls. No one wants to be that guy that makes the calls. Everyone wants everyone to play in the tournament, So, me talking to Cokes about stuff like that, I mean, it's definitely going to help a lot. Just like people checking in, clicking the check-in button and just making sure you can play the damn set, that helps a lot, because we are just people too. We don't have 100% time of the day to check our phones or be on the computer to check Discord. I know Cokes, he's a chemist. He can't actually check his phone because he would contaminate his phone. So me just doing that helped a lot. But me just going on Discord and submitting scores helped. But just dealing with people and just having to get on them to do the games, we got to have a different way of doing stuff. I feel like, we were doing a little bit of talking before the show about this question. Andrews, you want to do anything? I don't want to take away your points.
No,
I know you had some good
absolutely.
ones, though.
No, we I think Clutch and I had a great conversation about this before we went live. So first off, what we didn't bring up in that conversation was the latency test, which is going to be implemented as a hard and fast, you need to pass this or you're not playing kind of thing. And people have kind of slipped in under the radar. We definitely didn't do a good enough job of enforcing that. And I hope it wasn't a massive deal breaker, but just having it there in the first place, I think helped out. So we're going to make that next step. The second thing and the more important thing is the scheduling. It's if you say you're going to play it sometime and then you show up 45 minutes later, it's like, all right, that guy just sat there, that human that you were going to play with just sat there for 45 minutes and couldn't do anything. Or even a day later, like something like that. Like maybe they blocked off like a good hour and a half chunk of their day to come play. So that kind of stuff, the remedy to that, in addition to dequeuing, we don't just want to like not try to fix the issue at hand here. So there's some things we can do. And what Clutch and I have talked about is using a scheduling assistant. So hitting up the entire cohort of people that sign up for whatever tournament that's being run and saying, here is a scheduling assistant app. Doodle is a good one if you guys have ever heard of it. And it lets you input times that you're available. And in addition to ELO, you can use this to make pools where people can play. Obviously, you don't want to have a stacked pool. So at some point, something's got to give. But And you know, from there, you know when people are available, and TOs can say, hey, like here's like the 45 minute time slots that you guys have that match up this weekend or this span of 4 days for the pools, whatever it is, right? Pick some times. Pick like a time A, time B, time C if you need like a couple backups. And if you can only get one time in and one person doesn't show up, like they're just gone. You know, like we shouldn't have to be trying to remake around different schedules because it backs up the whole line. You know, like one thing messes up. It's like traffic. Honestly, it's like traffic. It's like there's a car accident up here and now everybody behind you has to wait. So
yeah, I guess going back to the latency tests, I know at least me personally as a TO, I definitely want to see that cleaned up because it's been on the players before in a sense to call if they see something, but you know, us as TOs, we try and get ahead of it by like knocking out really obvious failed tests and things like that. And I will say, because of, you know, we've documented some of these, but it's hard to check all these players and it's a big undertaking. There's people that I DQ'd from NBA Cup before it even started this fall that were then in MPS, and we had issues with latency tests. And again, it's a huge undertaking. We're going to do better, but like I want to be consistent for people, both, you know, across multiple tournaments and also within a tournament. And one of the things we talked about was requiring a latency test to be submitted before every game, and you got to pass before every game because people do move locations and things like that, and travel does happen. And you know, luckily we're playing a game that works pretty well on most beefier laptops. Like as long as you don't have like a budget laptop, it is more than capable of running this game at a high level because it's a 2005 GameCube game. But you know, so like those things happen. And so to ensure integrity of the tournament, and also, I hate to say it, when the community was smaller, you just wanted to get games in no matter what it was. Obviously, you didn't want to play something unfun, but like you just wanted to play. You were willing to sacrifice more to have that happen. Now we have so many people looking to play, things like that. And, you know, again, I don't want to turn away everybody in the name of having perfect zero ping issue latency, but I think people should want to be pickier when it, you know, these tournaments mean a lot to us. And some of them have big money prizes on the line. And so definitely glad that I think we're going to tighten that up. And, you know, like I said, it's a process that we've had in place that I think we're just going to get back to and be more stringent with, which is excellent. And then, yeah, in terms of like scheduling things, you know, like I said, it's about respecting other people's times and trying to make the pools run smoother, both for the TOs so that they don't have to spend as much time hounding you to play your games. That saves them time and respects their time. Respects your opponent time if you have one or two, you know, windows that you can play in and you can set it up. And if you can't play in that window and you can find a way to make it work and you tell them hours ahead of time, awesome, they can figure something else out. But if you wait and you kind of don't show and then like 45 minutes later be like, oh, sorry, I did something else instead, it's just not respectful of their time. So another respect part. And then respectful to the streamers that are trying to promote this scene. And actually, that's what I'm really excited about is if we have times that people agree to on day one, man, there's some really cool pools matchups that you want to see. There's some really cool games that probably want to get streamed. But when the streamers have to like ask people to be on stream or have to like, you know, like really pay attention and like at a minute's notice be like, hey, we're about to go play. You want to stream? And it's like, Also our streams are getting more and more complex and have more and more pieces set up. Sometimes we need 10, 15 minutes to set up a stream to have it be the quality we want it to be. So this is going to add, I think, like I said, a ton of respect for others into the process and, legitimize it in some ways and make it run smoother. So I'm really excited about those changes.
The last word I'll get in here is that if you don't use an Ethernet cable, you need to use an Ethernet cable. Please, for the love of God, get off of Wi-Fi. Unless you have God Wi-Fi, there's only like 2 of you out there. But for the most part, get an Ethernet cable.
Yeah, like people will say like, well, I passed the test, or, I have pretty good Wi-Fi. It doesn't matter too much. I'm telling you, it always happens when I play these people on Wi-Fi. I got PD up to the plate with Chem, and I'm up 2 runs. And you want to know when I get a lag spike? It's in the middle of trying to execute a frame perfect pitch with PD where I'm trying to just put it off the leaf. And because I can't control the pitch the whole time, it's now hanging over the middle of the plate and it's gonzo. Never fails. So unfortunately, unless you have God Wi-Fi and you have, because the problem with Wi-Fi is not the speeds usually, it's the latency. Because you have, it's a wave of information that is across all the other waves of information in your house. Think about it. You have TVs with remotes that have waves communicating back and forth. You have your telephone. Even if it's not hooked up to your Wi-Fi, it still has cellular signals going out. Like, those signals get crossed up and it causes interference. And so, even if you have really good Wi-Fi, and even if you're really close to your router, if you have lots of things pulling from it, so it has to pull in a bunch of connections at once, or if you have things getting in the way of that quality signal, you're gonna have spikes during gameplay. It's just it's just the reality of the situation. Yeah.
I got a good example for people that are in the call right now. They can see I have a server running for Minecraft. I just put it up today. Someone already died because of latency because I didn't have an Ethernet cable hooked up to it. I'm using Wi-Fi, so I had to get a splitter out, split my Ethernet cable up into that one. It's just as simple as that. Even something like Minecraft, it lags. So it's not like an emulator or anything. Happens with all games, any server, something like that. So just use an Ethernet cable. Fixes everything. Makes everything a lot easier for both parties. And same thing with ping test. Make sure you have a good internet connection. That simplifies everything too. I saw there's an EU league now. That's amazing. That's super cool. Having that community be a part now, that's amazing. It sucks that we can't have everyone on the same tournament. Hopefully that community gets so big and then we'll have a EU tournament or a EU Netplay Superstar or something like that. That'd be sick. So
that would be sick. A tale as old as time, man. Not being able to play internet games with people that live across seas adequately,
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But that's life.
And one last thing I want to say about get an Ethernet cable and get it set up. Talk to us if you don't have one yet and you're not sure how to set it up. We can talk about what is your situation? How far are you from your router? What equipment do you have already? What do you need? Because a lot of us, I don't want to say a lot of us, but at least me, I know enough that it's I can recommend you things that are budget enough that'll get the job done, that will help you set up your connection. And so that way, or come up with solutions that will help you get to your, your router or your internet box or, modem or whatever you have supplying your internet in your house. So that way you can, make this happen. I don't want costs to be an issue for making that happen. We can find a way to make it more budget for you. And there's people out there that know how to help you. So don't hesitate to reach out if you don't know the first part of, because like I said, if you're right next to your router, awesome. You're just going to plug 2 sides in. But say you got a MacBook, my MacBook is Ethernet, but I need a USB-C Ethernet adapter to make it work. So, like I said, it's not as simple for everybody. So yeah, if you have questions about how to make that happen or the most budget way to make that happen so you can afford it, reach out to people. I'll be the first to volunteer my services, but I'm sure other TOs would help too.
You guys want to hop into the next topic here?
Yeah.
I'm
ready for it.
Awesome. Netplay Superstars. One of the more responded to. One of the things that was said a lot in this survey, if I could speak here properly, is people wanting to see more Netplay Superstars. And I think between 11 and 12, we might have had a little bit of a break. But speaking of breaks, we should maybe pump the brakes on that take, because it is no small feat to put this tournament together, especially on Raviann's side, especially on Little Coke's side, trying to get everybody's attention, like, hey, here's the tournament again. So, Krasy, why don't you go ahead and start on what you think about just the general cadence of these tournaments, like the emphasis that they have in the community. You don't want an MPSS every week, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just trying to find a good balance of how long do we want to wait to, first of all, give enough time for our TOs, let it be like a long enough gap to where it's actually like a special tournament where like winning it actually means something. And I guess having little enough time to like allow people to either miss or do poorly and kind of like feel good that they can make the next one or do good in the next one. Because I remember when I think Netplay Superstars 10 ended, I was looking forward to the next one because I had lost to Hells in pretty convincing fashion. But then Cokes decided to have a break, and I think a break was well needed, but it was kind of demoralizing knowing that I was going to have to wait all the way until the next one to like kind of prove myself. So like I said, just trying to find that like good zone of when the TOs can and when the players can. From my perspective, I'm a lot more of a player than like a TO producer, like Raviannn, Little Cokes guy. So for me, like once a month would be great, but I can understand a compromise of like or once every 2 months, like kind of being a necessity.
And like, go ahead, Raviannn.
You.
And like, for example, for you, Krasy, you didn't know how long that break was going to go, and then it happened, and then MPS11 rolls around and you're on vacation. And so now you got to wait longer. And I think that was my biggest gripe about the cadence, was we didn't know when the next one's going to happen. And you want to know what? A lot of people said that to Cokes, and he said, all right, people, and I'm going to schedule the next 3 for you now, and now you know where it is. And that is beautiful, and I hope he continues it. I know that was, in part with Raviannn, and I hope we can continue to enable him to be able to make those decisions, because there's a couple things going on. Is I think at a certain point we were trying to wait for like more Rio features to come out before doing the next MPS, and sometimes we've like tied MPSs to when big Rio releases happen. So that will start happening less and less as we get to more of a beta stage in Rio. I know we've talked about it. Like that also goes into one of the other questions that I brought up, how often to set the ranked seasons. We've kind of done it in conjunction with Rio features, and we're starting to get away from that. We're trying to get a consistent cadence. I think like I said, it's more of give people something to expect, and the gap will seem less than when they don't have to scramble a week before because the tournament just gets announced. They know the dates for 3-4 tournaments out because the cadence is pretty consistent. So that was kind of my thing of, it's tough being in the dark. It makes it seem even longer because you don't know what you're waiting for. But as soon as an actual date is put out there, you know how long you have to wait. You can clear your schedule if you need to. And it just makes the whole process smoother from a competitor standpoint, I think.
So I'll go back into the topic of how long a tournament takes. Okay. So I pulled up a website on my monitor called MeeleeMajors.com. So I'm going to take a bite from what everyone in the community does. We always talk about Melee. It's like the most similar game, same platform, same emulator. People from that game have interest in this game as well. A little bit iffy on that one, but I'm just looking here. This is a major website. So these are the major tournaments, the big ones people care about and they fly out to go to. Just this last weekend, there was 2 major events. One in the Netherlands, one in Texas. This next weekend, one in Nevada, one in Oregon. So every weekend, there's at least like 2 major tournaments that are going on. I feel like if we have enough producers, enough TOs, and then the biggest part is players, we could have like 4 types of big tournaments. Like you have your Netplay Superstars, you have another tournament that this person does, another person, and if you have them like every week, people are gonna lose interest like that, because it's a big tournament, but it's every week. Okay, that's just gonna drown out. People are not gonna be interested as much as they were in the other past tournaments. I feel like if you want majors, 1, we're gonna need lands. 2, we're gonna need size, and 3, just more like skill when it comes to like behind the scenes type stuff. I hopefully will make a video on how to produce like a tournament, because there's not even a YouTube video on how to do that. Everything I learned was from taking little snippets from other producers in the Melee scene, or just like learning it myself. So I feel like the biggest thing we need right now, if we want to even get to that level, is just people wanting to learn and just grow with the community. So I feel like right now is a big part of the servers. We're all just trying to figure out things, and I think we're putting too much on each other at one time right now. So I think we need to take things in like a little step-by-step thing. But that's my answer to that comment.
Yeah, no, I agree definitely across the board. We're not huge. Like that's crazy that they're having 4 international tournaments within 2 weeks. If I heard you right. That's
and
nuts.
then it keeps going. Like the week after, it's the exact same basically.
Yeah. The amount of player talent that you need to make those tournaments, every single one of those to be interesting, is wild. They probably have as many people as we have here that are as good as Remke is on like that skill level. Like that's how close those games must be. So, yeah, I mean, I understand where people are coming from when they say they want more of the best tournament. So don't get me wrong when I'm saying to pump the brakes on that. But yeah, it's got to be one step at a time on this kind of thing. One other piece of this, super tiny piece, but I think is kind of fun. So I'm going to just say it. We can pull the curtain back on this a little bit. It's the way that the seeds are generated for these tournaments. Cokes has been hitting me up. He's been hitting Clutch up. He's been hitting other people up saying, come up with some seeds for this. Get back to me. Let's hop on a call for 30 minutes. What do you think? That kind of thing. And we came up with a way to not be changing how we're doing it every single Netplay Superstars. And this probably goes back like 4 or 5 tournaments ago. And before that, it was just like, all right, who's the highest on the elo board? They're 1. Who's next? There's 2. And the thing that we've implemented is trying to make the last 3 tournaments have a little bit of weight. So it's not just your elo on the board. We're going to give you some bonus points for placing. And we can make that public facing as well. So instead of just chasing the top of the elo board, you can also be chasing your tournament seed, and that can be something that other TOs use if they want to use stars off and stars on results as well. The same kind of thing can be used. So yeah, just so you know, when we're making those seeds, it's not just the elo, it's also prior tournament wins, because being clutch when it matters is what matters most.
Yeah, that's a very good way of seeding. I know lots of people do that for the Melee scene, and no matter what tournament it is, no matter how you seed, people are always gonna have a little bit of snipping about, oh, I should have been this and this. I feel like I should do this. So I feel like the seeding for this tournament was very balanced. The pool games were super close. I did stream some of those, and they were really fun to watch. Very fun to see the scores. I'm gonna give you some credit. It was really good seeding from all you guys. I feel like every tournament,
thanks, Coke.
Things just get like a lot better. So yeah, thanks, Cokes. Thanks, Sanders. Thanks to everyone that was a part of it. I don't really know. So
I think
I'm gonna give Cokes the bag on this one.
Say Cokes is the one that came up with the mathematics before, and then anything else that other people have input on is mostly to like make up for where our math doesn't account right now. Like for example, Mr. Joe, Jason, and Cactus should have been like 30th seeds, and that seems kind of ridiculous. So
exactly,
that was not going to happen.
We made an update for Matty Ice as well.
Yep, Matty Ice too.
Yeah.
So we're gonna come up with a more mathematic way to show that as well, because their reason that they're so low is simply lack of activity. It's not even that they've like fallen off and like they need a bump because they're probably better than like their elo says. They're not playing, and there's not a way to represent someone who's not playing in the current ranked season. But like I said, if we put them like 30th, man, that would just tank the early part of the tournament, and you'd get really weird. You get good players that should be in bracket not making it out to bracket, and then it makes bracket less exciting. So, yeah, I guess the last thing I'll say about, putting that together is, yeah, there's a formula for it, and we add the bumps, and then once you figure out the bumps, you got to match the players that were in those tournaments to the players in this tournament, and then you got to take out all the people on the ranked leaderboard that aren't playing in this one. And so, like, by the time you start doing all that, it takes time. I will say that, I sent Cokes a list that is mostly based off of his in the middle of the workday. It probably took me couple hours to sort through that, and he didn't really have the time to do that, so I'm glad I helped him with that. I think it got things going quicker, but like it's a large undertaking, and you have to do it at the last minute because you don't want to close signups too far in advance, so it takes a lot. My always recommended that I have said is every 6 weeks, basically, because MPS takes like 2 weekends, so basically 2 weekends on, 4 off, and then more importantly, I think it changes when the tournaments are happening in the month, because some people sometimes always have a busy end of the month or always have a busy beginning of the month. Maybe they have like scheduled work weekends that they're typically in that, and so I think that gives us some variety and timing of the month that it happens, and I think it keeps a good cadence. I don't know if we can get that specific right now because it's only Cokes running it, so it does depend on his schedule, and Raviannn is our GOAT producer right now, and so we kind of need to make sure he's available for top 8 day. I know he's not like claiming proprietary rights to it, but he's the guy that should be doing it right now. He's the guy that's going to make it look really good, and until we have other people that can support him in that, we should be trying our best to have him involved in top 8 streams. So but yeah, like, so you're coordinating those two busy people, and then also you're trying to give enough time for lead up. I mean, Raviann's trying to improve the streams every time, and so that requires work. And for example, right now we're trying to get the community channel up and running, Baltimore and I know we're going to do that in conjunction with Cokes and Raviannn, because we want it to get going and then be used for MPS 13. Yeah, that's the next one. So like, we need time for that project to get off the ground before the next one comes around. And so like, you just need time for things to improve and stew and allow things to change and get better. If we're trying to do these every 2 weeks, like, just imagine if it was just back to back to back. I don't think people want that, but like, even monthly, that just reduces the amount of time we have to innovate and make different, because then we're just going straight into planning the next one. And so, give us a little bit of time and things will get better instead of just being the same. And as much as it's great already, man, there's so many cool things that we keep doing every tournament that is a new thing, and I want that to keep happening. And so I want to stress that having that room to learn and grow is important.
All right, so moving on to the next topic, I believe.
Yeah, why don't we go to a content idea, because of where we're at in time of the podcast. I've seen this one recommended before from other people privately. I've had an idea about trying to do it, but it's just a really big undertaking, and I hope this is something that can happen with the community channel launching, because there'd be a big team that could work on this. A like coaching series where we get like the top players, S tier or the A tiers, and they take in, new net players. I know right now they're doing minor leagues that Sam N is hosting, or even, take a C or D tier player and work with them for a couple weeks and pit them against each other. And that can be really good content. It's informative. You learn from the coaching the top players are giving the other players and be like, how can I apply it to my game? It's funny. There's probably moments where the top players groan at some bad things that the lower players are doing just because they don't know better, because they haven't been told that there's a better way to do something. So like, that's funny to watch. It's a lot to gather all those perspectives and put them into entertaining content without just saying, yeah, they played a game in a Discord call, and I'm just gonna put it on your screen. That because then it's like there's a lot of dry spells, and so I think with a large editing team, I think this could be a really good content idea. So I'm glad it was recommended, and I would like people to continue recommending content because there are people that do content in this community, Mr. Joe, Matt Gree, myself, Baltor, that we love doing what we do, but it's more entertaining when we know there's going to be support behind it. Because, man, it sucks when I think I have a really cool idea. I put it out on my YouTube and it doesn't get many views. And I'm not doing this for money or anything, but like, there's a pride aspect of like, is this getting watched? And, I'm willing to put in my time to give other people entertainment, but if no one's enjoying it, then I'm not going to put in my time. And so, I don't know, keep sending out content ideas.
Yeah, I'm definitely like the same way. Like I've made countless videos, and I've had that fatigue where you're like, hey, if I post something, like, is anyone gonna really watch, or is anyone really give a shit about this? Like, and that kind of just demoralizes. Like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And I might have kind of had that, but I'm still posting. I had this idea for the podcast, and I'm kind of happy all you guys are still doing it, and with me, it's kind of fun. So, I agree with what you said on that one. Do we want to add anything to that, or?
I think replay reviews, just as a whole, amazing idea. Just like tearing down, even on a given at bat or like a couple of plays, maybe there's so much little tiny things. This game is tough. As a new person, this game's pretty tough. So little things, like if you are just analyzing somebody's like Magic Koopa at bat and they pull the ball, say, hey, you got to pull the ball, or you got to push. If you want any chance of getting hit, you got to push. Watch out on the first pitch of an at bat. It's probably a ball. Like, it's way too easy to just throw balls in this game and get away with it and have people swing and miss. Fielding, there's little tiny fielding errors all the time. People aren't good at pressing for fielder select for the pitcher on like Mario Fireballs when it hits an infielder. Like, get your pitcher. There's little things here and there like that I think would make that a pretty entertaining concept. So I agree.
Yeah, just like put up a VOD from like Netplay Superstars and be like, okay, what was this one thing that this person did that changed the aspect of the game and made them win? And then you just break that down. You put it to like the very specific. Say like, okay, at this in the seventh inning we had a Berto slice in here, but from this angle, if he had the hit go here, what would this change, or something like that? So that could be really entertaining. I've watched some Melee content like that. I just saw someone on my Twitter timeline do that for Amza and his Big House run. So, I liked it. So, someone get on that. I'll watch it. I'll put my time to watching that. I'll give you a like. I'll give you a share. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Something similar vein that I just remembered. I know some people have like talked about it, but like John Boy style videos for MSSB, like, I know no one's like, there's not really like a proof of concept so far, but if someone could just like figure out a time and place like during Netplay Superstars or something to give just like a quick 3 to 4 minute breakdown of something interesting that happened, like Stuff Flatbread's like 2 p.m. dingers against Hells, like something like that. I don't know. I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, I've heard that one a lot too.
Yeah, that's
I always think Baltor. Yeah,
Baltor.
All over it too. Yeah. Yeah.
He's got that voice. He's got that mindset. He's got those
Exactly.
jokes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially with the player cams, you can have like the reading the lips as well. Could be fun.
Yeah, we've seen people do like full game breakdowns before. Mr. Joe has done this a couple of times. And so that's like easy, like reusable content, but no one has like done the short form stuff. Like, if it could be short enough, that's a YouTube short. By the way, for anyone that doesn't know, that is a creator. I think most of the Mario Baseball creators have caught on that are consistently posting, but YouTube shorts just do ridiculous numbers compared to videos in this community, because I think it gets picked up outside just with the algorithm, because there's not enough YouTube shorts out there. And so if you can do something that can fit into the length of a short as a breakdown, man, that could really hit the algorithm well. So we've seen breakdowns before of whole games. Yeah, if we could really hone in on like specific at bats, like 1 or 2, that really changes the momentum of the game. That would be a killer content series.
Do you guys want to move into the most fun topic we have here?
Go for it, Thanners.
Yeah.
All right, so definitely the most enticing question here is the stars off and on, actually, draft rules changes. And the results are a little shocking, maybe not too shocking to some people. I think a lot of people really enjoy 1-2-1-1 in comparison to Nolan when you're looking at how some of these high stress games play. P1 just had such a big advantage in the old days with 1-2-2 Nolan draft. And I think 1-2-1 has brought that a little bit closer. I think people have enjoyed the differing teams that it gives and the single pick counter picks and stuff like that. So the results to the stars off draft rule set, 27.7, the plurality to keep 1-2-1-1. However, the majority, if you add up the other options, wanted to change it. So we thought, one, it's a good idea to keep changing things. Let's keep iterating. Let's keep figuring out like what works, what doesn't. We can always come back if down the line we figure, hey, 1-2-1-1, that first version we did was the best. Let's go back. We can always do that. The second highest option was to remove the Nolan clause, which is the Bowser must be captain rule. And then there's some other options here about changing to a pretty wild 1-2-2-1-1-2-2 draft. It actually got some votes in the survey. It did not get a lot of votes in the poll that we put up in the Discord. And then finally, there's one more option for reverting all the way back to the 1-2-2 Nolan draft, which also did not fare very well. However, like I said, most people wanted to make a change, so we did put a poll up for three things. And you've probably seen this. One is changing this draft, and it looks like 1-2-1-1 with no Bowser captain clause ran away with it. So what do you guys think about that specific poll question?
I rose my hand. I want to go first on this one. I actually have experience with this. I run a LAN league called Slap Hit Central. It's what me and my buddies play. We have like a whole this is what I nerd about. This is what I play my Mario Baseball. I don't play online. I play LAN. So I'm a LAN player. No. But we play with the rules of Bowser's not forced to be your captain. And there's a lot of plays that we would not have found, and a lot of just fun little strategies that we do. Just we're not the best players. A lot of them are super bad, and we would just have a little kick the shit around, just hit the ball. But there's just a lot more. We've had some Peach captains, some Wario captains. My friend went Waluigi once, didn't go well, but you just have these fun little interactions. It just changes the pace, makes you think a little bit different. And in my opinion, I think it helps the game a lot more than it hurts. You just add a little bit more to some players that wouldn't usually see the star. You're gonna see a lot more Wario with this. You're gonna see a little bit more DK, maybe Diddy, depending if you don't have DK. Mario, Luigi are gonna go like hotcakes. You might see a Bowser Jr. bullet ball, maybe, just depending on the draft. You never know, but it just opens up so many opportunities and how to play the star game. I think I'm all for it. I voted for it. I'm going to admit that. I voted for it. I think it's cool. And now anyone can go.
I really like removing the Bowser clause. I think it's a good change for now. I had a really insightful conversation with Matty Ice the other day about the draft format. And I think originally I thought, 1-2-1-1 is fine as is, and then I'm kind of he brought up a few things, and I think for right now removing Nolan clause or Bowser is better than what we currently have. I think it'll bring the power back to 1P, but I think it opens up more creativity. Do you value one of the top captains, DK, Birdo? I would say are probably the two best ones that fall in the top 9. Do you prioritize that as the Bowser team, or do you prioritize that as the 2P team of keeping those away from Bowser, so that way their options are now one of the bros, or you do end up with Wario or things like that? I think it adds a lot of interesting ideas. I miss picking in pairs, actually, is what I came to the conclusion of, because I think, especially how it is right now, the unfortunate is, yes, there's counter picking and that's really cool, but we don't have a way to flip pick priority. And so 1P is already kind of being nerfed in the draft by forcing them to have 4 of the top 9. That was the whole reason of switching to 1-2-1-1, was really changing the balance of that top 9 was most important. But then now they're also on the back foot for picking in ones the whole rest of the way. And so we talked about it is, I think the teams are overall pretty balanced, but it doesn't feel good when you're the first pick team because you feel like you're reacting the whole time later in the draft. You don't get to prioritize your comfort players. If they're available for you, you take them. If they're not there, or if you have to prioritize taking away somebody else to like not make another, like maybe you're not really good at Noki, but like the other team doesn't have a good left fielder yet. Man, you may, as 1P, you may really need to prioritize because you feel you're on the back foot already, that you take Noki away if they're trying to let Noki slide and pick her up later. So I hope for one day we go all the way to that like 1-2-2-1-1-2, but I don't think that's possible until we have a drafting client. If you're just doing it in game, it's gonna be a mess of remembering whose pick it is and things like that. So I don't think it's possible right now, but I would like to see changes, and I'm trying to be involved with that to not put it all on Cokes and Peacock as well, because they got enough other things that they want to implement in this game. But I think that could be a really cool thing that opens up not just that proposed draft format, but there's other wacky things that we could try that I think it adds the possibility of doing it to like go for a really crazy back and forth draft that we find is like mathematically balanced and doesn't confuse the player too much, because that's the biggest thing is if you try and do it in client right now with something like that, anybody new to the server is going to be lost from day one, and that it's just pointless then. So yeah.
I think Hell's commented on a previous video of Dingers and Discourse where I think we were talking about 1-2-1-1 before it was implemented, and he said something along the lines of like, for any competitive game that like refuses change is like pretty much destined to like die and fade away, just because it makes the game stale, and the more stale a game is, the less people want to play, especially when you have people on the ranked ladder getting like 200, 300, 400 games. I mean, playing the same draft over and over, even if it's the most balanced thing, it gets boring at some point. So I think I agree with a lot of what he said, and I think the best thing that we could do is kind of change things and see what works.
Totally agree. Yeah, across the board for like everything that's changing. I think that's like just a fantastic reason. Just change it, right? Just to keep things new, keep things fresh. The other two questions that are on this poll are fielder swaps, which it looks like they're going to stay the same, barring some insane upset. So I think it's 2 per inning plus 1 for tired pitcher is going to stick. And drop spots, which has been, if you pay attention to the Stars On community and like the topics that get brought up in there, it's actually one of the hotter topics in Stars On is drop spots. And it gets polled every single time we do a poll for Stars On, and even some informal ones, it gets polled. And it got blown out of the water again. So I think it's like a 40% swing right now where keeping them off is winning. Yeah, so that's nothing changing there, but I think people are happy with the way that Stars On is a little bit more risky business.
I'm all for it. All right, Thanners and everyone here, before we end the episode, I know Thanners wants to shout something out. We've been really fortunate to have someone like you to, do all this for us. Do you want to shout it out?
So if you missed it, there's a new type of Discord channel. It's a forum channel. And we reinvented the analysis and visualization channel into a forum channel. So go check that out. And what you're going to find, there's a couple things. A totally unofficial, not Rio official player profiles, something that I created with the data that I was given access to through the Rio team. So take that for what you will. And it's pretty cool. You can find your recent games on there as often as I decide to update it, which I guess I'll do after this call. I've got some nifty stuff like experience. It'll give you a point for every game you win, ranked or unranked. If you have a bunch of those, I give you a cooler title. So that's kind of fun. The cooler thing that you should look at, though, however, the player profiles are cool. The way cooler and way more insightful thing you should look at is the frame tool. So it's a Tableau dashboard. And what you can do is you can pull up a character, and people ask this question all the time. How do I hit with this character? What are the best frames to hit on with this character? For the most part, the answer is push the ball. But for some characters, you do want like a very specific like left stick input push or something like that. Or you can see that a left stick input up the middle type of hit, a frame 6, right? Like that will also get you the same type of output as a push would, right? So anyway, what this tool will do, you can select the character, you can select like a nice or a sour or a perfect contact, and you can see how it's fared across every single game. So you can teach yourself how these characters perform best, and you'll find that like DK hits like 600 when he hits the ball a certain way, and that's nuts. And if you can get good at that, you can win tournaments. So that's what I wanted to plug.
Well, hey, thank you, Thanners. Hopefully people, get some views now. I know sometimes messages get drowned out in the server, and I've used it before. The one that has like the ranks and stuff. I went on there, did a little bit of searching and stuff, and it was pretty cool to look at. So appreciate you doing that. It's always cool to look at like data and visualize stuff in the Mario Baseball community, or just anything in general, and it just helps out your game. So anything to help out, anything to get a little bit of a conversation going, we appreciate it, Thanners. Anyone want to talk about anything before we end the episode today? Well, that seems like it's going to wrap it up for Dingers in Discourse 18. I appreciate all three of you coming on today and our guest Thanners helping out. It was a really good episode. Before we head out, I want everyone that's listening to this episode to give us a like, give us a comment if you have any questions on the episode, or anything you want to bring to the next episode with a topic. We take everything off of YouTube. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It helps us out a lot. Share it around to your friends and everyone in the Mario Baseball community. And as I always say, adios and goodbye. Thank you for watching the Mario Superstar Baseball podcast. If you enjoyed this one, you can look at the other one that will be right in front of you right here. Yes, right in front of your face. Make sure to watch that episode. I'm not lying. Please watch that episode. It's right in front of you. Just click the goddamn button.